Hello everybody, Dokkan Assets here. Today we are back with another figure news recap. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of fun stuff to talk about today. A ton has happened in the world of figures in the last 2 weeks. And if you have taken notice on my channel, I've actually started doing a couple of breaking figure news videos outside of our 2 week every single other Sunday, basically recapping all of the figure news that has happened in the past 2 weeks. These impromptu breaking news videos have seemed to have been doing pretty well, and you guys seem to enjoy them. So I am going to keep doing them. I think the way that I'm going to format this type of video going forward is that these breaking news videos will sort of serve as me covering the big stuff that has happened during the week in greater detail, right? If you would like to check out, by the way, any of these 3 videos, the breaking news about Orange Piccolo, the stuff from NYCC that we got with Chilai, Lemo, and more Gohan, more Piccolo rather, and of course the Gohan figure from the upcoming prize figures, right? You can check out any of these videos because I talk about all of these topics in great length and detail. And when we talk about them in today, obviously I will still be talking about them because, of course, this is a recap of the past 2 weeks, but I'm not going to be going in as detail as I would during these videos because, I've already talked about them at length in their own video. So if you would like to hear more about my thoughts on each of these, I talk about them in each of these figure news videos, but of course I will be still not only talking about them a little bit here. This video now will sort of serve as a recap from the past 2 weeks, and we'll cover all of the sort of like small things, right? Because obviously when we go through these videos, a lot of these tabs are just a quick mention and then we're chilling. So starting us off today, speaking of which, the Tamashii Nation's website has gotten a brand new design. If you would like to check it out, you can do so by heading over to tamashiweb.com. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be working here. And what is kind of interesting that your boy notes from bbzfigures.com is that the main Tamashii Nation's website and Tamashii Nation's USA website has gone through the full facelift. What is most interesting is that for general figure releases, they list Amazon as the main seller for the United States. And there's a Tamashii Nations page now on Amazon. You can check that out below. Unfortunately, I can't show you the Amazon page because that will literally dox my address because obviously I'm signed in. However, the new Japanese page is up and got a little bit of facelift, so that is pretty cool. And if you go on to Amazon, you can see the new look for the Tamashii Nations page. So pretty cool. Moving on, obviously, like I said, this is one of those ones that we're going to talk about it a little bit because, of course, we want to include it in the recap. But if you want to hear me talk more in detail about this figure, you can go check out those videos I did this week on Orange Piccolo. Obviously, though, this was a super exciting announcement. Of course, we had the little display for the boy at NYCC, which was very, very cool. He looks super nice, if I do say so myself. And we have the official image for him too. Man, does this figure look good. I am so excited for this, guys. I have been cracked out of my mind on Dragon Ball superhero content lately. I've literally watched the movie for the 4th time recently. And I gotta say, I love it. I love it so much. So I am so excited to see that they're doing this figure right. This figure looks very, very nice, and I cannot wait to get my hands on this bad boy. Now, obviously, with this figure too, the other little teaser that was an important thing to note from this guy was on his display was this: reveal in a month, Tamashii Nation 2022 Tokyo. Obviously, most people are thinking that this figure is going to be Gohan Beast. It would really only make sense if it was Gohan Beast. I don't think that it could be anything else with them hyping it up like this, because I know most of us were thinking that when they showed that sort of mystery roster of the figures that were going to be at NYCC, Gohan Beast would be included in that, and obviously he didn't end up getting included in that, and we'll take a look at the other figures that were in that in a second. But this is, you know, pretty much like, hey, you know, it's probably going to be him. If this isn't him, I'll probably cry, because at this point, I'm genuinely starting to lose a little hope that we're going to get a figure this year, let alone this decade of Gohan Beast. It's rough out in these streets, boys. But hopefully we will get this announcement in Gohan Beast form. Obviously, this is coming up towards the end of the month. Of course, this all happened towards the beginning. This tweet was on the 5th, and the day of recording this is the 16th. This video will probably go up the 17th. So, with that being said, right, obviously, we have about the rest of the month and probably a couple of days. So maybe like 3 weeks-ish. I don't actually know off the top of my head when Tamashii Nation 2022 Tokyo is. I can try and look that up for you. But regardless, when this news does drop, I will absolutely be making a solo video on this, especially if it's Gohan Beast. But I think either way, with whatever it is, I mean, I don't know what else it would be unless it's literally Cell Max, which, you know, I would be surprised if they really do make a Cell Max figure, but I suppose, you know, time will tell on that front. But anyway, we also got the third form Frieza prototype revealed, which was pretty cool, if I do say so myself. Obviously, this guy was sort of teased in a previous figure news video, and obviously by Bandai themselves. And of course, on display at NYCC, we had the boy, the third form Frieza. Very, very cool looking figure. My man's cranium... It's huge, bro. My man's head is just enormous. I love this figure. I will say he does look a little bit small next to his fellow Frieza members, especially next to the second form Frieza. Look at that absolute behemoth. My man is just a giant, if I do say so myself. Pretty crazy looking figure here. I do like the size of his head though, and obviously we did get the official image of him. Very exciting stuff, and obviously this is pretty much rounding out the Namek stuff from SH Figuarts, so that is cool to see as well. We also got Black Shirt Broly too. This was kind of like a little bit shocking that they decided to include this with the superhero stuff, because this was technically one of the superhero figures in the list. Why? I don't know. It seems a little bit counterintuitive to count this as a superhero figure when Broly had this look in the other movie. Maybe it's just because in this movie, he's gonna be, you know, mostly looking like this. And so then they're like, oh, well, we'll advertise him that way. But he still had this look in the Broly movie. I don't know, man. I don't really get it either, if I'm being honest with you. I'm happy to have this figure because I definitely like this look for the character, right? But at the same time, I don't know, just seems a little bit weird that they would release him with superhero. But obviously, he was a pretty cool release, and of course at I almost said SDCC, I'm sorry, NYCC, sorry, I was trying to look up the information at the same time. I couldn't find it about the Tokyo event. I'll put that in the description below and in the comments if I can find that piece of information. But regardless, whenever it happens, I'll make a video about it, so I don't even know if you have to worry about the date. But Broly was also released, of course, the color exclusive version. Yeah, very interesting with this guy. I'm still debating how I feel about this, considering literally the bottom half of the sculpt is just reused from the original DBS Broly. Kind of an interesting one. But obviously, this was pretty cool too. Of course, at NYCC, we had the reveal of Chi-Lai and Lemmo. Of course, I did a video on these guys as well. Very surprising, honestly, that these two got figures. Definitely did not expect that. I mean, Chi-Lai kind of makes sense because she's a pretty fan favorite character, but I did not expect my goat Lemmo to get a figure. So I am very, very excited about that. These two are pretty cool. It is interesting to see that these guys will probably not be scaled to the normal figures because obviously like Chi-Lai and Lemmo are so short compared to Goku and Vegeta and Broly, right? But of course, they can't have them be that size to scale with the SH Figuarts figures because then they just be tiny, right? So these guys are probably going to be around the normal size and they'll just kind of be a little bit weird on display. But they'll still be good with each other, and I'm sure you could pair it with a Broly figure for sure. But yeah, very, very nice. The other thing that's so weird about this is they put Broly in the superhero reveals, But then they reveal these two, which they advertise as Dragon Ball Super Broly figures, even though they were also in Superhero. I don't know. Very weird business decisions. But yeah, obviously this guy released, and what was actually pretty interesting is that you can actually buy this figure for yourself. They've been kind of doing this with the conventions where they like sort of tease it as like, oh, it's a convention exclusive. You can only get it at the convention. And then bam, Premium Bandai has the boy up for pre-order. Now, I actually did not know this until I literally just clicked on this link. Thank God that I was not too crazy about this figure. But the pre-orders sold out already. That's crazy. Yeah, because look at this. The pre-orders haven't even closed yet at the time of this recording. People love Broly. What can I say? But yeah, it is cool to see, I will say, that these exclusive figures are seemingly getting less and less exclusive. It's kind of a weird thing because it's like, oh, it's cool when you own an exclusive because it feels more like this, well, exclusive, for lack of a better word, thing. But at the same time, figures should be available for everybody, especially if it's like a form or a character that people really want. With this, it's literally a special color version. So, you know, of course, it makes a lot more sense to have this as an exclusive color. But when you limit like a transformation or a specific character to a convention exclusive, that's a big no-no. So it's nice to see that at least, even though Premium Bandai is kind of stinky, you can still get some of these convention exclusives. Like last year, I forget if it was for NYC or SDCC, but they had the Nappa God Goku Whis and Beerus recolors, which are basically like the re-releases of those figures available on Premium Bandai. So good on them for at least making them a little bit more widely available. We also had Dragon Ball The Breakers release. And here is what's interesting about this. So I'm sure you guys remember my video ranting about Dragon Ball The Breakers and this Cell Shell figure. Where is my man at? Here, right? I'm sure you guys remember me talking about this and how you basically have to buy this game to be able to get this figure, even though it's sort of advertised as a SH Figuarts figure. I was kind of under the assumption that you would only be able to get this with pre-order, but it seems like that you can still get it if you just buy the game, right? Because they have like these different bundles here. And it seems like if you get the limited edition bundle, you know, you can still get the Cell Shell. So I don't know. If you're interested in this, it is still available on the official Bandai website. I'm probably not going to get it, to be honest with you. Because if I'm going to play Breakers, I'm going to buy it for 20 bucks on PC, because that's where most of my homies are going to be playing it anyway. But I just wanted to give you this little update. I'm kind of assuming what happened is because maybe the Breakers didn't sell as well as they thought it was going to, because I've been seeing the numbers on Steam of people playing live, and it has not been as to, I'm sure, Bandai Namco's expectations. So maybe that's why you can still buy this, because they're like, oh, we need to get rid of these pre-order bonus, like, physical items. So you can still buy it, even if, you know, it's not the pre-order version. Which, funny enough, I think the pre-order version was still 80 bucks, and it came with the pre-order bonuses, right? This stuff, right? The costumes and whatnot here, right? I think it was just this for the pre-order bonus, and then this was like the special edition pack. You got these costumes and the rideable character and whatever, and the Bandai Namco like time exclusive store thing. But it's the same price for less, which I think is a little egregious, but oh well. We're not here to talk about this right now, but I just wanted to give you an update on Cell Shell. As well, this is kind of interesting because this thing was actually displayed recently at NYCC. And the Cell Shell, now labeled as Time Breaker Limited Edition. As you can see, Dragon Ball The Breakers Limited Edition Bandai exclusive. For 75 bucks, it should have been included with the SH Figure SL, but yeah, now you have to buy the game. Very unfortunate. And it's kind of weird that they're still displaying this on the SH Figuarts shelf. Now, the tag doesn't say SH Figuarts on it, but it's still a little bit of a weird thing. And also, by the way, I do like Dragon Ball The Breakers. I have not actually bought the game yet, but I played the beta quite a bit. And it was a pretty enjoyable game. I liked my time with the game. I think the game is fun. I think it's just ridiculous that you have to pay that much for a $20 game to get this figure, when you could just buy a $20 game and then get this figure. You know what I mean? Anyway. Moving on from your boy to the Japanese side of things with your boy Cell Shell. This is kind of insane, if I'm being honest with you. Japanese fans got screwed over the most with Cell Shell debacle as they could only win the limited edition via lottery. Very, very crazy to see the prices for this bad boy. Obviously, that is some pretty ridiculous numbers. Keep in mind, it's not exact, especially right now, because yen to USD conversion is very down, right? In terms of like how powerful it is compared to the US dollar. However, the sort of general rule of thumb that I use is that 100 yen is $1 USD, right? So like 350 bucks, 250 bucks. This I think came with this sell, but this is that $500 basically? Holy cow. I'm so sorry to my brothers in Japan. That's crazy. That is absolutely insane. We have another official resin statue. This one was interesting. We've talked about these a couple of times. It is quite interesting that they have started doing these, or they have these official statues where Toei partners with a company to actually make these big resin statues. They're pretty cool. I always thought that they're a little overpriced, to be honest with you. I mean, resin statues usually are kind of overpriced as it is. This thing looks pretty cool. I do think Boo's face looks a little bit off. That is usually the case with these resin statues. There's only been a couple of them that I've ever seen that I've been like, yup, that's a perfect figure right there, which I would still love to get those someday. But this thing is available if you would like it. I believe no cost or availability, but I'll update if we have some kind of pre-order for this. And apparently the key ball actually lights up. So that is pretty cool. It would be kind of cool if the water could light up. So yeah, we really don't know many details about this thing, but there he is. That's the boy. Okay, so now kind of moving into our more nitty-gritty stuff. By the way, of course, links to DBZ figures in the description below. Here are the Ritsuden 3 Chapter 1 high-quality final pictures. If anyone gets these, the hair is probably going to need repainting to make them less garnish. Yeah, it is very weird, to say the least. Yeah, the, like, blue color definitely looks a little bit of a different shade of blue between Trunks and Gohan. I think Gohan looks pretty good, right? I think that his face with these lines, they look a little bit weird too. Maybe even his mouth. He definitely doesn't look as good as he could for sure. I think Trunks looks much worse. Like, easily much worse. I don't even think there's any, like, competition on that one. But I think overall Gohan turned out pretty good. I do know that for the most part, I think people are kind of looking forward to the base version of this Gohan better. So it will be interesting to see if we actually do get a proper comparison between the two when both of those figures release. But yeah, there is the boy for you. We did get some more pictures of them in a actual Crane arcade. Yeah, Trunks looks a little bit messy, bro. I'm not going to lie. Gohan definitely turned out a lot better than him. However, there is quite a bit of QC shenanigans going on here. You can see all of these scuffs and tufts on my man's hair. Not to mention the scuffs on his armor. That is, oof. From a distance, it doesn't look too bad. Hydrate or dihydrate, by the way. But, like, this should not be present on the figure. And, nonetheless, the hair color looks so different in this lighting compared to how it looks in this lighting. That just goes to show you how different lighting can make a figure look so different. Sorry, my headphones just fell to the floor. Very interesting, though. This is another kind of weird tidbit that happened recently. This was on October 2nd, actually, because Baggy was talking about some figures that were re-releasing, and apparently the Clear Eyes Gogeta is getting a re-release. I'm sure you remember a while back on Figure News, we talked about pretty consistently that some older-ish figures were getting re-releases so then people could get them again, but it's really, really weird because this figure is definitely not uncommon, right? This is a pretty common figure. So to re-release this guy just seems a little bit silly to me. But I mean, that's that's the ball game, I guess. So if you want this figure, there's an even bigger chance to get it. I do want to see how he compares to some of the other Gogeta figures, but at this point, I have so many blue Gogeta figures that I really don't need another one. Moving on from him, though, this was kind of interesting. So the Dokkan Kuji that we were hoping for, obviously not confirmed or anything like that. It was pure speculation on our part, right? That hopefully we would get some kind of Dokkan Battle update, because obviously there's still no Dokkan Battle prize figure, right? This was sort of a reply to this original tweet that we talked about in the last figure news video. They did not talk about anything of the sorts. Only the next EX one. So it ain't looking too hot for a Dokkan figure this year. They could still do it. They could absolutely still do it. But it ain't looking so toasty, if I'm being honest with you, unfortunately. So hopefully we get one, but only time will tell. I believe we do have one more update on that later in this video. So keep an eye out for that. But this was a pretty cool little update. The next GX Materia figure is actually going to be Android 16, which is really, really cool. Definitely not the character that I was expecting to get a GX Materia figure. Y'all know, if you've been watching my channel for a little bit, that I love the GX Materia line. Absolutely one of my favorite figure lines of all time. So to see my man get one is quite interesting. I also don't have a single Android 16 figure, so I am quite excited about this. It is kind of interesting too, because funny enough, I don't know if you guys remember, but we talked about in a couple of figure news videos ago that they've been releasing these Ichiban Kujis that were super overpriced, and then releasing prize figures of the same characters. This is following that trend. I don't know. Maybe that little bit of suspicion in that tweet was right. I'm not sure, but very exciting nonetheless. I don't know what they're gonna do for the effect part. I guess it probably will be the Rocket Fist, if I had to imagine. But like, why would they make that a clear part? Like, maybe it'll be like the fire coming off of the Rocket Fist? I'm not sure. It'll be very interesting to see, though, when we get this figure. I'm actually pretty excited about it. I'm not going to lie. Also, this was pretty interesting, too. April also has the next Solid Edgeworks figure. And the next Clear Eyes figure is going to be a Super Saiyan Gotenks. So that's pretty interesting. As well, the Solid Edgeworks figure is a adult Gohan. So if it is the Kaioshin outfit, that will be pretty cool. I'm doubting that it's going to be Gohan Beast. I'm not even going to, like, you know, put any hope into that one. But I'm excited to see what these figures end up being. Obviously, these are going to be the releases after what we talked about in the figure news video, the breaking figure news video that we did most recently, which we'll also talk about those figures here too today with the superhero Super Saiyan Gohan. But yeah, very interesting though. As well, no Dragon Ball WCF. Seems like they're just not doing it anymore, which is kind of interesting. And still no Zenkai Salt or Burning Fighters. Those orders are really bad, so not surprised. Yeah, these are kind of like the best-selling lines at the moment, so sort of makes sense that these are, you know, what they're going with and what they're keeping up with. These I thought were pretty cute, and these are technically figures, so I figured I would include them in here. These, of course, are the Wafer minifigures, right? These are based off of the Wafer sticker arts, and they basically take them and make them into little minifigures. And to be honest, they look pretty good. I don't know why they chose Goku to make a gold, because I would have figured they would have wanted to do, like, one of the more superhero-esque characters, or maybe like the Kid Gohan, but I mean, these do look pretty cool, and obviously this is based off of the movie poster as well originally, so that is pretty cool if I do say so myself. Of course, we did see these production images already during this week. We had the February GX Materia Piccolo drop, and here are the high-quality production images for ya boy, with the correct colors. I think we actually talked about this in the last figure news video in the recap, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, very, very nice figure. Again, I am super excited for this guy. Anything that the GX Materia line throws at me is always great, and I'm happy to take with open arms. So very, very excited about that. We also have the boy Vegeta, the Matchmaker's Vegeta, of course, squaring up with Goku here from Superhero. Another good-looking figure. I will be very excited to see how this looks out of the box. Also, why is this tweet dark? That's so weird. Very strange. February factory confirmations. Made in China. All of Dragon Ball. So that is pretty cool that these guys are all going to get the high-quality treatment. Thank God for Vegeta. Kind of for Goku, I guess. But obviously, if they're going to make one in the same country, they're going to make the other one, right? A bit interesting, though, that My Hero, Naruto, and the Maxomatic are all going to be made in Vietnam. That seems like a little bit of a shaft for all these figures, if I'm being honest with you. But, you know, it is what it is, I suppose. Okay, so we have some solid Edgeworks Goku Black finals. They had to tack his feet with the base, so that's never a good sign. As you can see, there's the sticky tack for your boy, even with the stand there. We have to wait until Game Stations unbox him on Friday to see how bad the lean really is. These pictures where these are taken in these little like bubbles are always taken at the Bam Presto Lab, which is basically like this place where you can go and you can see just the upcoming figures and they have them on display, which is pretty cool. But that is where we get these figures where they're kind of in these little glass cases. And honestly, these figures don't look too bad, right? I have quite a few Goku Black figures already, so I am not really in need of a new one, for sure. Base Goku Black or Rose, actually. However, both of these do look pretty good. I think I like Rose's face a little bit more, to be honest with you. I think it just fits him more. And I think the hair sculpt for him also looks very, very nice, if I do say so myself. Something about Goku Black's face for the base one is just, like, too big. The rest of the figure looks okay, though. However, I know I've said this. That angle looks really good, though. I know I've said this in a couple of figure news videos, but this figure would be perfect to make a display where, you know that opening scene in the Goku Black arc where he's holding his arms out over, like, the burning city? Literally just turn this figure around. You don't have to look at the face if you don't really like it, and bam, a perfect setup for that scene. This figure would work absolutely wonderful for that, so I may actually get him for that reason, but we'll see when the time comes for him to release over here. This was also a bit of an interesting one. The January Dragon Ball item Gashapon 01. I have no idea why this image is so unclear. Thank you, comment section, for coming through with a clear image on this one. I still can't tell what that is. Oh, that's Cell Shell. Interesting. Why does it look gold? Very interesting indeed. We have the Quinto Un as well, the Dragon Radar, the Dragon Balls, and Frieza's Pod. Keep in mind, these are like capsules, basically, right? These are like capsule figures that you can get. So that's why they're so small and feel like so weird, I guess you would say. Interesting too, excuse me. I don't know if you press the button and then it changes and it lights up, or there's something you can change on the back, but it looks like the Dragon Radar actually kind of like works. And Frieza's ship is actually sculpted on the inside, I think is what that's saying. Because I don't know what else that would mean with them showing the inside. But yeah, pretty cool. Oh, apparently this is actually a February release. Baggy just messed up on the initial tweet. Okay, so I'm sure you guys remember that we have a Dragon Ball Ichiban Kuji coming up. This is the one with Super Saiyan 3 Rose. And we actually had the smaller prizes for this revealed, of course, in Ichiban Kujis. When you're pulling for the tickets and you don't get the main figure, you win a smaller prize. And this is what we have for today and for this Kuji. And I gotta say, right, I don't think we really need to open all of these in a new tab, to be honest with you, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is the way to do it, right? Instead of just like using different arts from different things, just use the art from Heroes. What a great idea, right? For some reason, I don't remember them doing this in the past. Maybe I'm just misremembering. But this is all Heroes art that I recognize, or at least I recognize the art style of Heroes on display here. And not to mention, obviously, some of these arts are so good. I'm sure most of you probably recognize this Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta render, this render of Gogeta, this render of Gogeta, right? I'm sure a lot of you recognize those from thumbnails in the Dragon Ball community because a lot of people use those for thumbs and stuff like that. This is some older heroes art here, if I believe. If I may be so bold in saying that, because I don't know that for sure, but it looks like older heroes art style to me. Yeah, very cool stuff. I think all of these are great. I mean, of course, a couple of these look a little bit but at least they all have one side that I think has some really high quality art. Funny enough, I almost think with these two, like these still look pretty good, but they are definitely the little bit of the more janky promo artist who does the art for superhero or for superhero. It's so hard to say superhero and Dragon Ball heroes now because it's it's too confusing, bro. But anyway, I still think these look good, but obviously I don't think they look as good as like these, you know what I mean? It's also weird to me that they didn't use the Forku render that matches with this Vegeta, because this is not the one that like pairs up with him. Kind of interesting. They also use the new Supreme Kai of Time, or I guess technically the old one in the story, and of course our Supreme Kai of Time too. It's kind of weird though, I will say, like some of these make a lot of sense, like Blue Goku and Vegeta, right? Piccolo and Gohan, right? These guys make sense because of course that team up in Dragon Ball Heroes, right? But like this? Trunks and Yamcha? Weird. But nonetheless, these are the clear files for this Ichiban Kuji. Basically, you just hold paper in these, but you could just use them like a poster. That's essentially what I do with a couple of these that I've purchased throughout the years. And they're really cool. I am definitely going to have to try and cop one of these for myself. I would love to get some of this art in like a piece of physical media, so that would be sick. We also have the little mini plates that these are going to be. Why they decided to do stuff like this recently where they basically just slap the logo on it, I don't know. Maybe it's just because they're lazy. I think this type of stuff is cool, but at the same time, I feel like I've just seen the same product on the last like 5 Ichiban Kujis. And this isn't relevant to Dragon Ball Heroes at all. Like, it's relevant to regular Dragon Ball, right? Goku's symbol on his gi, the Dragon Ball logo, the Capsule logo, and the Red Ribbon logo, but like, it's not relevant to the Ichiban Kuji at all, so I don't know. Seems like a very strange choice. And here are the towels for this time around. They are using basically that same Super Saiyan 3 Rose promo art as well as the Warrior in Black. And then we also have that same Super Saiyan 4 Goku render. And funny enough, they used a different render Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta that I've actually seen before. And then, ironically enough, all the good renders are used down here. I think you can kind of see from this image pretty clearly what I mean by like the difference in the art style and how high quality like these renders look compared to these ones, or at least in the facial structure and more of like the body composition, right? But these look really good. This is a very popular piece of Dragon Ball art, I know. So it's cool to see this on a little towel. Obviously, her art is really good, and I know a lot of people seem to like her character. And of course, these two beautiful pieces of Vegeta and Gogeta art. Definitely going to try and cop those for sure. That would be awesome to be able to get those mini towels there. Also as well, if you guys remember, right, from last year, we had the first 20, so have a first come 20 served bonus card, but the actual card is still being designed. Here's last year's, right? So the first people, the first 20 people that play this Ichiban Kuji will get this special edition Rose card, is what it seems like, right? Now, what is interesting about this is that this card was not very expensive. I copped the Vegito from last year, funny enough, that was in this picture, for probably like $7 on eBay. Definitely not an expensive card. By the way, I gotta say, this Vegito art slapped last year, and I think they're using that same promo artist that they used, though this does still look really good. Funny enough, I almost think that this render looks better than the one they've been using on this one with how his face looks, but nonetheless, very, very good. Definitely like this one a lot. I will have to buy this off of eBay when this releases to pair with my Super Saiyan Rose, because I'm absolutely going to buy that when that drops. This was pretty cool. I know that we've been talking about the Dragon Ball Evolve art for a little bit now because, of course, these arts go pretty crazy, right? These arts look absolutely fantastic. I think they do a really out of this world job for these figures that really are just kind of like action figures at the end of the day. But it's cool to see, and you always love to see new Dragon Ball art, especially art as good as that too. Yeah, so this was also a very interesting piece of news that I did not see covered anywhere else that I personally think is really interesting. The Kling Cluster. I'm thinking of Kling Clang, apparently. I got Pokemon on the mind, sorry. King Cluster recently got trademarked this year. Very, very interesting. They've exhausted all the Brolys at this point, so I wonder what they have planned. Kale and Cell Max are the only things I can think of that would fit the King Cluster branding. I don't even know about Kale. I mean, I guess so. Broly is still like a hulking monster, though, and I guess Kale is too, but I don't know. Broly's definitely still bigger than Kale is, right? But obviously, Cell Max is literally a giant, so that definitely would make sense to me. This comment also makes a fair point. What about Orange Piccolo, since he's very big, right? Kind of interesting. We'll have to see what they end up doing this because obviously we've had, what, 4 versions of the Dragon Ball Super Broly for King Cluster and 2 of the Z Broly? So I don't know what they're going to do with this. It's interesting that they did trademark it because, like Baggy's kind of implying, this would imply that, you know, they're going to do more with the brand. So we'll have to see. Will be very interesting. I hope to see a King Cluster cell. That would be amazing. Anyway, History Box Goku dropped recently. Here is the poster for the boy. And here he is out of the box. You can see that this figure is super tiny, especially if you've ever, you know, held one of these regular size figure boxes in your hand. Hydrate or dihydrate, by the way. Goku is so small on that box, right? That is like, could literally fit in the palm of your hand, basically. I don't think the finals of this guy turned out too bad, to be honest with you. Again, I think if his face was maybe just a little bit better, and the giant seam line wasn't through the top of his head. And again, this figure was bigger, then maybe I would be a little bit more inclined to cop this guy. But nonetheless, he did still turn out pretty good. And interestingly enough, as you can see, Varroque was actually in charge of this one, which makes sense why this figure still turned out pretty good, despite some of the other history box figures being kind of eh. Emmy, I don't know who that is, but this person, Emi, I think is how you pronounce that, cooperated with the diorama. I made it with the theme of reproducing that scene from the anime, but it was very difficult to adjust the line on the left cheek. Interesting. There is a thin shadow on the skin and grass. It was my first time participating in the series. It was fun, so I'll see you again someday. So this is Varroque's first work on the History Box series. And needless to say, I think he did a pretty good job. Obviously, it is supposed to be mimicking this exact shot from Dragon Ball where he's standing in front of this building here. And, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much to a T. You know, again, I feel like his head is almost a little bit too square, right? His face feels a lot more like round in the original. But nonetheless, still a very good looking figure for sure. This was also extremely interesting. So, for the Japanese side of things, why this survey is a Japanese survey, I don't know, considering this is a survey about New York City Comic-Con. But basically, it's just a survey going through talking about, you know, where you see info about them, what figures you're interested in, you know, all this other stuff, right? But the most interesting question easily... Oh, hey, funny Dokkan reference. You love to see it. However, this was easily the most interesting question out of all the questions in the survey. Look, ladies and gentlemen, at your screen. What characters would you like to see as SH figure arts from other Dragon Ball movies? Lord Slug, Android 13, Android 13 Transformed, Black Hair Broly, DBZ, please? Please? Bojack. Bojack transformed. Also, Bojack would be pretty sick. Tapion. Pycon. That would be awesome if they release some of these movie characters as SH Figures. Excuse me. Maybe they've just seen that, like, people are willing to get these characters, and so they're kind of trying to gauge whether or not people would want these or not. I definitely think it would be awesome because all of these characters have a severe lack of representation when it comes to merchandising. Like, to be honest with you, even though I'm not like super crazy about any of these characters, like they're not my favorite Dragon Ball characters or anything, right? But I don't dislike them, obviously. Like, I enjoy them all, but they're not, you know, like my favorites, I guess I would say. I might consider getting some of these simply because it's basically the only figures of these guys that we have in the modern day. So I don't know. If they do go through with doing some of these, that would be really cool. I think Tapion and Broly would probably be the most popular out of all these. It would be cool to pair Pycon with a Gogeta figure as well, of course. And if they make an SH figure or it's Shinemba, please, I'm begging you. The arts on the Super Saiyan Blue Goku versus Frieza art were revealed, and you can see there they are right there. Looks like Fenyo's work indeed. And it looks pretty good. I like Frieza a lot. Goku's nose does look a little bit weird, but I'm wondering if this is just because of the Kami quality that it looks a little bit weird. But yeah, very good looking stuff. You always love to see your boy Fenyo getting some work. So this was pretty interesting. First of all, the third figure in the Dragon Ball Superhero reveal list, right, that we got in the last figure news video that we talked about mainly was Pan. So all three of the figures that were going to be debuted at NYCC related to Superhero were Orange Piccolo, Black Shirt Broly, and Pan. It will be very interesting to see with Pan if they decide to include more for her, because as it stands, with the figure being that size, I don't see how they're going to be making any profit, how they're going to be charging, you know, anything for this figure. Like, bro, this thing better not be more than 20 bucks, and that's pushing it if this is just going to be the only thing in the box. Obviously, it'll have more heads and hands, but I'm almost wondering if they're going to do something where, like, maybe she's the accessory pack, where, like, all the accessories for Orange Piccolo and Gohan Beast and stuff like that come with her, and then she's just included in the box. That will be very interesting to see. Obviously, Frieza was on display as well, and they actually had some prize figures on display as well. Of course, we had the two Gotenkses, right, from the Solid Edgeworks line, which these guys actually turned out really, really great. I think these are some of the best figures in the line. We also have the Clear Rise Gohan, which he also looks really, really good. I'm glad that he stayed looking pretty good. We had the Gohan and Piccolo from this Ichiban Kuji on display. To be honest, bro, I was trying to pick up that Piccolo at one point, but his face still looks a little bit to me. I think I'm going to pass on him, honestly. However, here was some of the figures from this Ichiban Kuji, the Versus Omnibus Ultra, which these guys are in the same one, but of course they put these guys in a separate, like, tank because of course they're superhero characters. Oh boy, we are going to talk about Cell and Trunks a lot today. Yardjack Goku, by the way, not too bad looking. Honestly, he looks pretty basic if I do say so myself. He looks like he's leaning a little bit almost, and his arms do look a little bit like almost too stiff. His hair, I do like the sculpt, but I think his eyes are a little bit too sharp, to be honest with you. But we're going to talk about Cell and Trunks in just a moment, don't you worry. Vegeta and Goku, Vegeta looks okay. We'll see a little bit closer ups of him in a moment, but I gotta say, I think probably the best figure from this set is easily the Goku with Roshi's glasses. I think that one just looks really, really nice. They definitely did a good job with that figure for sure. So let's take a look at some of this that we got. So this was kind of interesting thing to note. Cell has a stand for his tail, which is very interesting. I'm assuming what that means is that he's so heavy that he can't stand without it. And this was a fair point that this person made. This was like the final image of this guy here, and you can see, right, no stand. Now, whether this stand was planned later or this was just an editing trick where they edited out the stand is up to interpretation, I suppose. But it is definitely a shame that it's there. And man, those colors look so washed out. And not to mention his feet aren't even flat on the ground. That is a bit of a yikes, if I do say so myself, right? This was also just something interesting. Clear Eyes Gohan has a yellow foot base. I don't think I've seen a foot base of this color in quite some time. So very interesting to see that color on a figure here. We had some final production images for these bad boys, some high quality ones. We've kind of taken a look at these for a little bit now, so I won't spend too much time on those. This was also something interesting. This is probably the only piece of news in this video that I'm going to tell you to take with a grain of salt. Because apparently the exclusive line Dragon Stars will be a Broly movie, Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta. Though, excuse me, Baggy has not gotten this double confirmed like he does for other information, you know, like with 16, right? Like he basically just tweeted, hey, GX material is going to be 16. And obviously he had that information double checked. Very, very interesting. But he says, I wonder if this is a mini line and they're going through the Broly movie form. Super Saiyan God next, of course. The Super Saiyan God lover makes sense. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see when these guys eventually release, if they do. Because, of course, this is a bit of a, unconfirmed one. Here is the pictures of Clear Eyes Gohan, right? Here is the original prototype. We saw this figure a little bit ago at the prize fair, I believe. And, of course, people were excited seeing this final because, of course, this one looks really nice. And here, or I'm sorry, this prototype, rather. And here is the final version of the figure. I don't know if it looks worse. To be honest, it doesn't really help, again, that the lighting in here is terrible. So you can't really like see the figure that well in this picture. Like I'm sure if you were in person it would be fine, but of course seeing it in this lighting with this picture is kind of stinky. Overall, I think he looks pretty good. There's not really too much that I can see on this figure in terms of like blemishes or things that I would be, not really happy with. I think overall he looks fine. Yeah, nothing too bad about this guy, honestly. Definitely pretty solid overall, I think. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. So real quick, let's cover these. I'm sure you remember me talking about the Draw Cap capsule figures. We have the final images of these guys now. And, oh, they're bad. They're pretty bad. They're really bad. Look how they massacred my boy, bro. These used to be like stylistic in a way, but now they just look like these cheap knockoff figures almost, right? Not the greatest. I think this is the only one that even looks halfway decent, and even then, a bit of a yikes if I do say so myself on that one. Okay, so obviously we did take a look at these in the previous figure news video, but of course, these are the upcoming March production images. Of course, a brand new superhero movie, Gohan, which is very exciting. Even though this is not Gohan Beast, this figure still looks fantastic, and I'm very excited for this figure. We also have Bardock, which y'all know I love Bardock, so of course, I'm going to be copping this figure. A very iconic moment from Bardock as well. We also have the Super Saiyan Goku in the armor, which of course we saw this guy a couple weeks ago with those prototypes, and a Super Saiyan Vegeta, which is the Super Saiyan version of the base form one that we saw a little while ago, which this guy is, interestingly enough, not smiling like that other figure was, which I would almost think would be flipped because Super Saiyan, you think he'd be smirking? Not sure. But nonetheless, these guys do look pretty good. I think overall these are pretty decent. I don't know how Bardock's going to turn out. I think already the look on his face is a little bit weird looking. So seeing the final image will kind of be like whether I choose to get this guy or not. But Gohan, absolutely copping this guy. I am a huge fan of the BOS line, which of course they always have the gimmick of the shiny hair. So your boy is definitely going to be copping this one. I am pretty excited for that. Also interesting, these all look to be Joe's work. Seems like Joe and Varrock are basically solo sculpting DB at this point. Yeah, this was just a little bit unfortunate. At this point, Peggy has got to just accept that it looks like we're going to have to wait at least a year minimum from the delayed release of the Japanese release of Superhero to get figures of Orange, Piccolo, and Gohan Beast. Very unfortunate. Because obviously by this point, right, most of the figures that we're seeing, if not all, are basically releasing well into next year. And we have no idea when that orange Piccolo figure is being released yet. We just saw the initial image. We don't have any concrete date on that yet. So I'm hoping for something. I'm really hoping for them just pull something crazy and drop it on us, because that's really what I want at this point. I've even considered getting a custom figure at this point because I'm just that desperate. But hopefully we get something this year for sure. This was also a little tidbit that I did include in one of the other figure news videos, but important to include here. We're not due for April production images for 6 weeks from now. Keep in mind, this was on the 11th. So this was Tuesday. So this is probably more like 1 week less each on both of these points. However, the prize fair is in 4 weeks, which is basically now like 3 weeks. And we'll show off April to June prize figures subject to photo bans, of course. So we will get to see what those bad boys are. Hopefully we get something superhero related. Please, I'm begging you, Bandai. And of course, with the photo bans, right, we may not get to see all of them if they are not allowed to be taken pictures of. So hopefully somebody will sneak it if that's the case. Because we've had that in the past, but I think they are definitely a little bit more restrictive about that now, where they only are letting in special people early, via invite, and not just the whole public, or at least to those restricted areas, right, or those restricted photo sites. So we'll see what happens with that, but I am very happy that we're going to be getting a prize fair very, very soon. This was also a little bit of unfortunate realization here. Not really news, but I figured that this was worthy to include. If you've been around figures for a while in the Dragon Ball figure collecting community and have been watching my figure news videos for a while, you can see that it looks like Takanaka sculpting for Dragon Ball is over. He hasn't done the last BOS, the last 3, in fact, and hasn't appeared in a while in general. Best known for his work on BOS, Dokkan, and Legends collabs, it was a pleasure watching him evolve as a sculptor from potential to dependent. Yeah, this guy was fantastic, right? I own, funny enough, all of these figures. This UI figure isn't necessarily my favorite. His face was kind of eh. But funny enough, these 3 are literally, well, I mean, we're going to count that as one figure. These 3 are some of, if not my favorite figures of all time, especially the tag team Goku and Vegeta. And I also love the Yardrat Legends Goku. It's just so good. Such a good representation of the character. Sad to see my man go. Obviously, it's been a while since he has gone, but you know, now that we've kind of seen basically the current state of Dragon Ball figures, we can probably safely say that my man is gone. So hopefully we maybe get to see him again in the future, but only time will tell. Okay, so this was quite interesting. Initially, the February Kuji info was not sent out for Dragon Ball or JJK, but it was sent out for Demon Slayer. They're both due at the end of February the 25th, so that's probably why. We did get some very interesting information on this later, but not the actual reveals of the figures. Here are the multi-angles of the Gohan. This guy, again, looks really, really cool. Definitely excited to get my hands on this guy. The sort of promo version of this also looks fantastic here, too. Definitely like the look of that. Here's Bardock from a bunch of different angles. Makes sense. Obviously, he's just leaning over the rock. Again, his expression still looks a little bit goofy. And then we have them in separate shots here. Yeah. I think Gohan looks really, really good. I'm definitely very, very, very excited to get that bad boy. Moving on, we have another little piece about the Dokkan anniversary figures here. No info for Japanese or overseas standard prize figures for February or March. February Dokkan Kuji is not EX related. Only chance for 8th anniversary figures are limited to exclusive game station chains in Japan only, or like the Figure Arts Zero 7th Anniversary Gogeta. Find out before February for both. Which is just so unfortunate because this basically confirms that we're not going to be getting a prize figure this year for the anniversary figures, which is a bit of a shame because it's almost become somewhat of a tradition for the anniversary. At least for me, it almost feels like it is a part of the anniversary celebration, getting the figures and enjoying the anniversary while having the figures too. So it is definitely a bit of a shame. But, you know, it makes sense because obviously Dragon Ball figures are kind of on the decline. It is a little bit surprising, though, considering that the Super Saiyan Gods were some of the best-selling figures this year. So, I don't know. Okay. So, this was quite interesting. February Arise Broly production images. This guy is 70 centimeters and he's hollow for about $300. Very, very interesting. If you are unfamiliar with Arise, they are sort of done by a company who's kind of like hype beastie. They kind of do that sort of thing where they make like merch that's sort of meant for that demographic. And so they make Dragon Ball figures sometimes, right? I think there's another company technically behind the Arise line, but they always charge a lot for their figures. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I literally have pulled an all-nighter last night, so I apologize about yawning at you here. But this figure looks cool. I will say, though, his face definitely looks a little bit strange. I like the effect of him, like, grabbing the key ball within the key ball. I think that is really, really cool. I definitely like the execution of that. However, not only does it feel cheap because you can literally see the line down the middle of the ball, which, guys, just fuse it together. It would look so much more professional if you just did that. Very, very much so a shame. But I don't know how I feel about this guy. Like, again, $300 for this is definitely way, way, way too much, especially for a hollow figure, right? If you're unfamiliar, basically the hollow figures tend to be less quality than the solid figures, right? So when you're looking at figures, especially for the prices, that is definitely something good to keep in mind. Overall, I think I like this guy, but I would definitely not be spending that much money on him, especially when his face still looks a little bit janky, if I do say so myself. Oh yeah, we got to see a bit of a display at one of the stores for the Versus Omnibus Kuji. Here are the figures on the shelf, and of course you can see some of the smaller prizes, and you can see the little piece of cardboard that's advertising it up there. By the way, holy cow, look at Majin Buu in the size difference with him compared to the rest of the characters. That is actually pretty insane how big my man is. This guy is going to be a very stinky one to ship if you're trying to import this. I think that box may just be the size of King Cluster Broly boxes, which is interesting. I didn't think he was that big, but holy cow. Let's see, what does he have to say? Majin Buu is so big, the box height is about 30 centimeters and it's very heavy. Some extra stuff for reasonable trunks. Interesting. Very interesting indeed. Oh yeah, so this was a pretty crazy piece of news. We found out what that February EX Kuji is going to be. Obviously not being Dokkan Battle or Gohan Beast. It's going to be Namek, which is very interesting. We have Frieza, Zarbon, Dodoria, and Kui. And apparently the LO is going to be Frieza. So that will be very interesting to see what moments they decide to take from Namek and what Frieza they decide to use. Excuse me. I'm assuming that for Frieza, Zarbon, and Dodoria, they're going to do something like the screenshot that Baggy posted where he's in the pod and then maybe they're standing next to him when they're talking to the Namekians or something. Kui, there's a bunch of stuff that they could do for him, but I'm going to be curious what the actual LO Frieza is, if it's going to be a whole different figure or if they're just going to do a recolor of the pod. Will be very interesting to see when we actually get this figure news. By the way, I will definitely be doing an impromptu video on this because obviously a new Ichiban Kuji is pretty big news in my eyes. But I didn't do a video on this because, of course, we don't have the actual pictures of the figures just yet. So hopefully we get those soon. Moving on, by the way, I wanted to share with you some more pictures from the Omnibus versus Kuji. And again, Goku looking super fly. I think they did a really good job with this figure. This, I think, is easily the best figure in the set. I think he looks really nice. This is probably the only one that I would actually consider getting. And if I do want to get him, I will definitely be importing him. I do have the Yardjack Goku from Legends, that collab figure that we talked about before, funny enough. And this guy would be pretty nice to pair with him. And obviously, a base from Yardjack Goku is a figure that you do not see every day. In terms of Cell, oh man, he kind of turned out a little bit stinky. His sculpt does not look that great. Look at how his arms are like deformed and like the way that they sort of push into his body. Very, very strange. Not to mention, I still think his colors are kind of washed out. I know that he's a little bit dark when he's an imperfect cell, but like they still look, oh. You can also see there's the tail stand back there, so he absolutely does have that. Very, very interesting there. Oh yeah, so here was the Vegeta from the Ichiban Kuji, as you can see, next to the Grandista Majin Vegeta. This guy doesn't look too bad, however, I will say in regards to him, he definitely looks way too skinny. I think that Vegeta was absolutely way more bulky when he was in his Majin state, as well. His fingers kind of drooping a little bit is a little weird because you would think that he would be, you know, more intense, I suppose. And speaking of intense, my gosh, Vegeta, that mascara, holy cow, my boy, you need to do away with that. They definitely fumbled the bag on this figure for sure. With that, it doesn't look too bad, but it is kind of distracting with how thick those black lines are, especially compared to this guy for sure. Okay. So we also have some pictures of the Elo Boo. This guy's paint job is very interesting, though I have to say right off the bat, he absolutely looks like Hubba Bubba Bubblegum, which, you know, literally that's what Majin Buu is. So I guess in that realm, they succeeded, honestly. The stand is also very funny because it literally just goes under his body. That's kind of funny. But yeah, there's the cape, basically just draped behind him. And then there is the Ichiban Kuji Kid Buu for a little bit of size comparison. Wow, Boo towers over Kid Buu. That is pretty crazy if I do say so myself. Yeah, very, very nice. Definitely, I want to get this figure at some point. This will just easily be my, like, staple Majin Buu figure, because for all like the main Dragon Ball characters, I try and get like one staple figure. I think this will be the one once I get this guy imported. And he looks very, very nice on the shelf there. Definitely excited for this figure. I'm glad he turned out well, if anything, even though, you know, it's kind of a shame because obviously he's the last one prize and it's going to be a lot harder to get him. This is probably the character that I personally cared about the most in this Kuji. I know a lot of people did, considering there's a lot of reusing and the superhero shenanigans. So definitely excited that this guy actually turned out pretty good. Here are the heights for the March figures. Gohan 12 centimeters, Bardock 14. Basically a little bit of small boys, but makes sense for the history box. However, Gohan is going to be really small if he's smaller than Bardock. I am hoping that he has a little bit more like leg room to him almost. But we'll see when the figure actually releases. Here's what I was talking about, by the way, with Trunks. Oh, Nelly, this figure does not look that great. You can see already that he's leaning, right? I think that's pretty obvious. Here he is next to a couple of different figures, right? Yeah, this guy is not that fantastic, if I'm being honest with you. He's not bad. He's definitely trying his best. But there are so many things wrong here. The face, the hair is not spiked up enough. A little bit of the lean on the top half. The fact that he's not, like, fighting. So, but I don't know. Kind of a shame how this guy turned out, because I know some people were definitely excited for this guy. This picture right here, I feel like, just says it all about this man. As a bit of a yikes for sure. Okay, here are the factory confirmations. Basically, Gohan is the only one who's going to be made in China, and the rest of them are going to be made in Vietnam. So it'll be interesting to see how those figures fare for sure. Yeah, this was a little bit of PSA from Baggy. It's up to you if you think sells were 70 bucks. That is his current Japanese market value. If it was 50, that would have been more reasonable. IMO, excuse me. Elobu not worth the risk for anyone to import. Almost as much as a 30k base. Base MV. Crazy. And if you get dodgy QC, you are out of luck. Yeah, very insane if I do say so myself. Obviously, people are really excited for this figure. I mean, we have not gotten a Fat Boo in literally forever. So it is nice to see my boy get a figure. And it makes sense why he would be so expensive. And obviously, last run figures tend to go for a little bit too. So this is what's to look forward coming up here. Obviously, filming this video on the 16th. This is filmed the day of. So, the February EX Fear the Frieza Army Kuji reveals should be daily throughout the week, ending with the Dragon Ball Archives, so only 3. I'm curious to see who sculpts what. Yeah, so I will probably do a video on these, not every single day, because obviously that'll be a lot. But I'll probably do a video, excuse me, when everything is revealed for the Ichiban Kuji, so we can kind of do a proper, wrapped up video on this and talk about it all at once. So keep an eye out for that, and obviously keep an eye on Twitter as well to see the actual updates for that. And besides that, I think, yep, that is everything, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's figure news video. As I said, I'm doing these videos a little bit differently going here on out. Obviously, this is more of a figure recap from the last 2 weeks, where the big topics that are the hot news, I'm just going to make individual videos on them, talking about them, going more in depth on them, and give them a little bit of a spotlight in the recap, but of course not go into too much crazy detail on them here in the recap videos. So let me know if you like this new format. It seems like this is what people are really enjoying. I know some people in the comments of these figure news videos really liked me doing it this way. And I did run a poll on my community tab, and it seemed like people wanted the breaking news videos. So this is how we're going to do it now. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And of course, let me know what you think of all of the figures that we talked about today, what you're the most excited for. I'm very curious to see how this Kuji is going to go. But personally, I think I am the most excited for that upcoming Android 16. Obviously, in terms of what hasn't been revealed. However, of course, Orange Piccolo is kind of what I'm gushing over right now, because, man, I'm so happy about that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you in the next one. Dokkan Assets out. Peace.